A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you." The word of the Lord. Now, I feel like every time this passage comes up from Jesus, and he says it again and again, you have heard an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, turn the other cheek. If someone slaps you in the face, turn the other cheek. And I feel like every time I want to say the same thing in my sermon video, because Jesus says the same thing pretty consistently here, which is we are not called to retribution. Now, this is, to be clear, as I say every time, this is not meant to be a sermon that encourages you to be victimized. It's not meant to be a sermon from Jesus to say that if you are being victimized or in a domestic violence situation or a case of harassment or exploitation, that you are supposed to stay in that situation and take it. Jesus is not saying that. I'm certainly not encouraging that. You need to advocate for yourself and for those whom you love who are in situations of violence or exploitation, harassment or abuse, and to turn away from those. But what Jesus is saying here is that ultimately, don't let a person who is enacting violence against you control and make you violent as well. You ultimately are the one that's in the position to choose how you will respond to wrongdoing in this world. There was a time in which it was called for unlimited retribution. You trod on my foot, therefore I get to go kill your family. Or you stole my sheep, therefore I get to kill all of your livestock and make war against your nation. And everyone says that's absurd. This idea of unlimited retribution is absurd. You should have proportional retribution. That's justice, they said. The idea that if you killed my sheep, I get to go and kill your sheep. If you hurt my child, I get to go and hurt your child, an eye for an eye. And what Jesus is encouraging them is to think even more deeply about what is just, to think even more broadly about the call for human dignity, to move past retributive justice and move toward restorative justice, what we call today restorative justice. To say that if there is hurt or wrongdoing in this world, that you don't heal it by committing equal hurt and wrongdoing back. That just makes more pain. And as I say to my children, when one of them hits one of the other ones over the head and then they hit them over the head back, I said, that doesn't make it better. That just means 2 people have been hit over the head now. Jesus, likewise, is encouraging them to say, you bring about healing in this world by ending the cycle of violence. That if someone has been violent toward you or hurt you, don't let them change you and shape you to be violent and hurtful back. That instead you are called to a deeper, broader kind of justice, where when there has been wrongdoing committed against you, you look at how can you play a role in healing, in ending systems of violence. What was the cause that led that violence to happen? How can we change our society so that that doesn't occur in the future? How can we make amends so that the wrongdoing doesn't get perpetuated? That's the kind of justice Jesus is encouraging us to look at. So when we are hurt, and we do get hurt sometimes, and again, this is not pro-victimization and saying that you should be okay with it. It's not okay to be victimized. But when you are a victim, the call for us is to look at where have the systems created that wrongdoing and that violence, and how can we be people who change our world and our society so that that kind of wrongdoing doesn't occur? That's a deeper kind of justice, a deeper level of justice to which Jesus is calling us. And it may be harder work sometimes. And it may be against our reactionary nature when we've been hit to want to hit back. But Jesus knows we have the ability to do it. Together, we can support each other and encourage one another to grow and know that we can play a role in bringing us ever closer to the kingdom as Jesus would have it be. I'm here for that work with you. Thanks be to God. Amen.